Hey everyone, my name is Abhiram Agina and this is our 19th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial, we will learn about the amazing abilities of Lambda functions. So Lambda functions are anonymous functions that can take arguments and contain only one expression. So that's the unique part about our Lambda functions, is that they only contain one expression. So that basically makes them simple one-off functions that we use to only return one statement and not take up too much space. So they're commonly used when you want to pass a function as an argument to a higher order function, and that simply allows us to variate the way we write our code. So it's not just variables that we're supplying as arguments, we can also now use functions to supply as arguments. And the last thing to note with Lambda functions is that they enforce functional style programming, and we'll get more into that when we discuss OOPS concepts versus functional style programming. But simply put, functional style programming is where we organize and basically center our code around the ideas of functions. And I'm sure you guys are gonna enjoy and understand this topic a lot. It's one of my favorites actually, just because you guys can see the power of Python programming through the use of our Lambda functions. And you can also see the simplicity with Lambda functions. So to start out, I'm gonna show you guys an example of a Lambda function, and we're going to put it up against a regular function just so you can see the differences and a little bit of the pros and cons of each. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've completed our quick examples of Lambda functions and regular functions, and right off the bat you can see the main difference is we're utilizing the keyword lambda with this one and the keyword def in our regular function. But besides that, you can also see the simplicity of our Lambda functions, and the real use of Lambda functions comes exactly when we're using them as one-off functions. So obviously regular functions would be more effective if we were to use this square function often. But if we're only going to use it once, it really makes more sense to utilize our Lambda functions. As you can clearly see, they're much more smaller and obviously not as clunky as our regular functions. So this program just gives you a quick way to differentiate between a Lambda function and a regular function. And those are really the key differences. And as you can see, x represents the argument that we supply into our Lambda function. And our x times x, right, our x squared represents the expression of the Lambda function. So now that you can see Lambda functions versus regular functions, let's get into basically how we will use Lambda functions. And that really goes along with the methods map and filter. So I'll write some quick programs so you guys can see how exactly they go along with the filter function and then with the map function. So to start out, I'll start with the filter function. Let's begin. Right, so before we get into anything, let's go ahead and break down what exactly our program is doing. And let me run it just so you guys can see exactly how it's working. But right, so let me get into breaking down what's happening. So within, you can see the use of our filter function, and you can see our Lambda function right here. So what our Lambda function is simply saying is, for every argument supplied, it's simply going to use the modulus operator and ultimately check if our x value is even or not. And what the filter function is doing is it takes in a list and a lambda. So with our lambda, it's gonna remove whatever values do not equal 0 once the modulus operator is applied. So you can see I've just supplied some random, or not really so random, it's just 1 through 10 numbers. And it's gonna go ahead and chuck out any numbers that are not even. So 1, 9, 7, 5, and 3 should all be gone. And as you can see in our printed result, they've all been taken out. And with our second one, we're using a string list, and I've just called it word list, and it has a bunch of words like apple, banana, carrot, animal, and zebra. And in this case, we're gonna use the filter function and the lambda and our list to simply take out any words that do not start with the letter A. And you can see that once we've completed using our filter function, we're simply casting it back to type list and running our program. So that's just a quick breakdown of what exactly our word list and our filter functions are doing utilizing our lambda. And it's interesting because we're able to pass our lambda as an argument into each of these functions. So now that you guys got a quick example of what exactly the filter function does, let's get into the map function, which utilizes a lot of the same concepts, just does something slightly different. So let's go ahead and get into it. Right, so really similar to what we did using our using our filter function. You can see once again we're having a list of integers and we're supplying it into our map function, which once again takes a list and a lambda. So it's taking in our lambda right here, and within our lambda you can see for every argument supplied it is simply doubling the value, hence the name double list. So for once it's completed for each value doing that with our single list, it's going to convert all the values back to type list and supply it into our our list double list. And lastly, you can see we're printing it out. So let's go ahead and run this program, and you can see it's doing exactly that. So 12 becomes 24, 4 becomes 8, 67 becomes 134, and so on and so forth. So there you guys can see the quick power of the filter function and the map function. And it's really doing in like 2 or 3 lines what would usually take up to like 10, not tenths an over exaggeration, more like 5 lines of code. And if we're not going to be using it often, this is really the simplest way to do such a task. And therein lies the power of lambda expressions. And now that we understand the use of map and filter functions, let's go ahead and I'm giving you guys a quick little challenge. I know I just introduced it to you, but I'm thinking with all the knowledge you guys have so far and with the quick introduction to the map and the filter, you guys should be able to crack this thing. So what I want you guys to do is with the list of numbers, and I probably am going to supply you with the example list of numbers. I want you to remove all the numbers that end with 6 and then return the square of the remaining numbers as a list. And try to do this all in one line, and you can utilize your map and lambda functions obviously. So go ahead and get started, and I'll supply you with the example list while you guys are doing it. So you can pause me after I type up the example list. Okay, you can go ahead and pause me. Just remember, so for each of these values, you're going to want to remove any of them that end in 6. And then with all the remaining ones, you want to go ahead and square them. So go ahead, good luck, and I'll see you in a couple minutes, I suppose. Bye. Right, so I'm assuming by now you guys have finished the quick little challenge I've given you guys, and I'll show you how exactly I did it. It's a little complex to see, but if you break it down into tiny parts, I'm sure it's going to make a lot more sense. So let me go ahead and get started with this one. Right, so I've finished this quick challenge that we've done, and as you can see I'm using my example list, and then past that we have this huge line of code, and you can see multiple lambdas within. So let's go ahead and break this down because that's how I did it. So the first step that I did was I wanted to take out all of the numbers that that ended with 6. So what I'm doing here is I'm using my filter. And within my filter, what I'm saying is I'm taking the lambda and I'm saying for every argument, convert it to string and take the last, basically last character within that string and check if it is not equal to 6. Only if it is not equal to 6, then I am keeping that. If it's equal to 6, then obviously I'm gonna chuck it out of my list. So with that, I'm supplying the example list and then removing any values that are equal to 6. So now once I've done that, it's going to convert all my results to a list. And you can see right here from the start of my list parentheses, it goes up until there. So this entire chunk is now our list. So now imagine that as a huge list, that section as a huge list. You can simply break it down now into the use of our map function and one simple lambda. So you can see our filter, lambda, and a list. And then our map has a lambda and a list. So now with the lambda function, you can see out of the remaining list, all I'm doing is I'm squaring all of the values and once again converting that to a giant list, which I will then supply as my final nums. So obviously once I run that, you can see 1 squared is 1 and it's not taking 6, but 27 squared gives us 729, 56 squared no, but 0 squared is 0, and then 46, obviously we're chugging that out, and then 113, yes, we're keeping it, and then 167, we are keeping it. So right from there, you can see the effectivity and the efficiency of our lambda functions. Obviously, it became a huge line of code, but if we're not trying to repeat this process anytime soon, this is as efficient and useful as it gets. And I hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I think I made it much more confusing by adding in all the parentheses in between, but it really is a relatively simple line of code, and hopefully it showed you what you can do with lambda functions when needed. So hopefully you enjoyed this quick introduction into lambda functions. I'm sure we're going to see them all in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed my quick little Winnie the Pooh meme. But as always, I will be linking my code into the description of the video below. And I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.